Whoa.
Yeah, and get them all phase aligned. Record them all. I won't sum them coming into the box. I'll record them all independently as different. So in other words, every guitar part in my Pro Tools session has 4 channels assigned to it. It has 4 individual channels. SM7B, 421, M81, M201, whatever the choices are that day. SM7B usually stays on a cabinet, and then I kind of build around there. But sometimes not. But that's typically that the foundation. Like I'm always going to put an SM7B on the cabinet, and then choose the other 3 around there. Depending on the part or the guitarist or whatever. And then what I'm doing is when it's time to mix it, I'm really blending the guitar part according to what I think, which microphone I think is getting the character or the tone of the guitar that I want the most, and I'll favor that microphone and then use the other 3 faders depending on the part to kind of move around it. So there's a lot of automation going on. So yeah, for instance,
cool.
or maybe the verse only is using 2 microphones, and then the chorus I'm using all 4, so things just get bigger. Quite literally, they get bigger because now all of a sudden we're using all 4 microphones out of the 2. You know what I'm saying? And I'll do that for. I mean, I'm not a quick mixer. I'll say that because I'll do that for every guitar part. I'll blend each 4 microphones differently and automate them depending on each section, differently depending on what I want it to do. So in the chorus, maybe I have a Marshall head on the left side, I have a orange on the right side, and in the middle I have a Sodano, and they're all going through this cabinet, and each of them have 4 tracks assigned to them that have microphones on it. Maybe the left side will favor the SM7B, maybe the right side will favor the 421, the middle might favor, an M201, and then those things are all kind of moving and playing and dancing around each other to create this sonic landscape. And what I find, and this is sort of, to be honest with you, I've learned this from listening to Eric's productions a lot, and actually, luckily actually getting chances to have conversations about this. It's sort of with those techniques and then using some tricky sort of MS techniques, mid-side techniques, it gives you it's kind of like ear trickery where because the tones are different so far left and right, it makes it feel like it's much wider than it really is because your ears are literally listening to 2 different things on the left and sides. The left and right sides. So it's like, oh yeah, like there, and really what's happening is like, oh, the left side's being favored this microphone in this cab, the right side's favored this microphone, this cabinet, and so your ears are hearing that, but not necessarily like identifying what it is. It just feels big because it's very different on left and side, right and sides. You know what I mean? Saying,
yeah, wow, that's so cool. It's so detail oriented. It's like,
yes,
like I think just recording on like the neck pickup and then the bridge pickup on on opposite sides is like a big difference. But this is like a whole other level,
Yeah, it's a. I mean, I just finished a production, and I'm actually doing vocals with a vocalist today on the song. But I just finished a production up for a band. It's their new single, and the guitarist probably over the weekend was just like, if they have a therapist, they definitely talk to them about me because we spent about 17 hours on guitars over 2 days for one song. 17, 18 hours. It was 2 9-hour days with lunch breaks in between that. So it was basically, 2 10 hours. So it was like 20 hours of the studio days. And we recorded guitars 2 days. So I think it ended up being probably 17 or 18 hours of actual recording and setting up and trying things like that,
Well, I just spoke to a metal guitarist that told me he spent 40 hours on one song.
Yeah, I mean, and I was gonna say, and that's just for the guitars. So, and then, you can kind of put together how long I spent on other things and kind of think, oh, wow, I definitely spend a week. I tell people a week a song. When I say a week, I mean 6 days. I say a week a song is what I need. You know what I mean? And like my week, like I said, like 6 days, 12-hour days. That's what I need for one song. And honestly,
people just listen to the amount of work that goes into this. Just like listeners, just keep just take that in.
Yeah, it's and like I said, if you, I don't know how many hours that is, but what is that, 70 basically hours? And that's not really mixing it. That's just like getting production and recording done, and then I'll spend another 12 or 15 hours mixing the song. So, but it's true. Like it's a week a song, and I've gotten to kind of a dangerous point now where it's like, I don't even know how to spend less than that. You know, it's like, I don't know how I would spend, if somebody says we have 4 days, I'm like, how would we do that? 4 days on a song? I don't know how I would get that done. You know, like I need 7 days. I have to have that, you know?
It would just sound like a different record.
It would just sound different. And really, I mean, I'm saying I couldn't. Of course I could do it. I just would have to change things drastically, which could be cool. You know, I'm not saying what I do is right every time, but it is my process. No, you know, it's awesome. It's, you know, and at this point in my career, people are coming to me because they've heard things I've done. So
right.
That can get a little pigeonholy because it's like sometimes you want to try a bunch of different things, and then bands are like, yeah, but this doesn't sound like the things that we referenced that you've done. You're like, okay, well, that's true. You know, so you kind of get, I don't want to say pigeonhole because I like my process. So it's like that kind of gives a bad connotation. Like I think it's like I'm comfortable with that, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I change things. It's not like I'm not using the same microphones, the same cabs every time. I'm still making creative decisions in that regard. But it's like I still want to spend this amount of time on guitars, 2 or 3 days on a guitar. You know what I mean? Like that. It's more that. Yeah. Less about like.
Well, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome to like really niche down and really know what your sound is about, and like have people come to you because of that, and have people say no to you, like you said, because of that. Like you're getting the artists that you want to work with now. You know.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's like people that are coming to me are, even if they don't like my process, they're understanding it because it's like, well, you referenced X, Y, and Z, and this is what we did. You know, this is how I do it. Like, you know, if it's, you know, if you're referencing those records I've done, then this is the way I do it. You know, and if you like those things, then I can get those things for you as well. But we have to go through the process. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just like so curious about the guitar sound. Like, like, are you compressing the snot out of it? Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you get it so upfront yet so polished? I just got to know.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Coming in, I don't typically compress guitars on the way in anymore. I don't. They're all just coming in. I get a good sound, good level on all 4 microphones, and they just come in. I mean, there's definitely EQ going on. I'm definitely, you know, depending on the microphone of the part, I'm definitely EQing, but I don't compress. But I do EQ each microphone. Then when I sit down and finish the mix, I am compressing the fucking piss out of them. That's correct. Yes. Every channel of microphone, so like each channel will have its own equalizer and its own compressor attached to it. Those are getting summed down to a bus. Those 4 channels are being summed down to one bus, where it's getting an overall EQ on all 4 microphones and an overall compressor on all 4 microphones. Then that bus is being sent to electric guitar master bus, where every guitar bus is being sent there, and then there'll be an overall more EQ and compression that's on the master bus of the electrics that are happening. And then for all intents and purposes, that electric guitar master bus is being sent to my outboard settings, which are also have compression EQ on it as well, you know. So it's
layers of compression.
I'm a very big believer in staged equalization and compression. Stacking plugins or even hardware does not get you that sound, you know. Like, it is a thing that is, to me, happens in stages, you know. So it's like the right microphones, then the right EQ on those microphones going in, then we do some more EQing in the box, then we compress in the box, then the bus has some EQ, then the bus has some compression, then the electric guitar master bus has some EQ, that has some compression, and then that's being sent to a master bus that has some EQ, that has some compression. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's happening in stages. It's coming together. It's not this. There's not and that's sort of some of that garage band thing that happens. It's like, why doesn't I just turn it on? It doesn't sound great. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, that's not how this really works. You know what I mean? Like, if we're really recording musicians with instruments and guitars, this is how it's done. You know, or this is how I do it. I'm saying, I'm not saying that everybody does this way. This is how I do it. Like, it's happening in stages. You know what I mean? Slowly but surely, we get to the core of that thing, and we end up with something that hopefully we really, really love. You know?
Yeah, I love it. Do you have a compressor in particular that you tend to go to for the guitars?
APR 2500 or Unfairchild, one of the two.
Oh yeah, you guys got plenty of Unfairchilds there.
There's a few laying around here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, APIs seem to be really great for guitars, and I also like them for bass. It's just like there's something punchy about them, you know.
Well, in general, I lean very heavily on API pre's and my 2500 for a lot of things. I really like the API sound. I think it's, especially for the rock. I don't necessarily use it on vocals or not always on drums. Drums, I'm a bit more a fan of something that has a little bit more creativity to it, because the API, you kind of turn it on and up, and it sort of just, that's how it sounds, and that's why people love it. And that is objectively also why I love it. But, it's not like the end-all be-all. I don't think anything is, if I'm being honest. I mean, I love the 1073s. I don't like them on guitars very much, if I'm being honest. I love them on vocals and snares and kicks, but I don't really like them when I'm doing guitars. So it's like everything has their place. I have kind of a hodgepodge of gear. I just have stuff. I don't have a console. I just have tons of outboard gear that's all going to a patch bay where I can make my choices that I want to make for each independent thing,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive deeper. I guess I think into your the fact that you work with so many bands. Because we talked about this also before we started recording. How working with bands is a little different than working with a singer songwriter. There's a lot of personalities involved, and there's a lot of challenges, and I'm sure a lot of benefits. Do you want to talk about those challenges and maybe how you overcome them, and maybe some of the other things that are involved in working with bands?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the pre-interview. It is one of those things. I mean, I was saying it's important for every band member to have a big personality. When you're watching a band on stage, there shouldn't be somebody on stage that's not their own force to be reckoned with. And that's really important. And the label and the management will push that, because as they should. It's very important, In the studio, would you end up with this 4 or 5 really big personalities in a room together, and then there's me, who has my own thoughts on and my own personality as to what I'm trying to get out of a production or recording as well. That's very important, I think, and they've hired me to do that. So it can be a challenge, because you really have to play to everyone's strengths and know everyone's weaknesses in the room, and you have to find those things out. That happens over time, but like I said earlier, you can't spend too much time in figuring it out, because then bands get kind of frustrated with the process, and it happens quickly. I've seen it happen, you can see it happen when bands are like, okay, why isn't this working, sort of thing. And I'm also one of those people where I tell the band, I want as many people here in the band as often as possible. If on guitar day, I want the fucking drummer here, because if the drummer has one little idea, that it's worth it for him to be here, I don't care if he brings a Switch as well, you know what I mean? But plays video games while he's sitting in the back of the room. But if he has one little idea, that's worth it. Actually, a great example of that is that band Hearts Like Lions. I think I sent you one of their recordings, or maybe 2 of them. That drummer, Nick, he was here. He's just such a great dude. But he was here. We did that record for a month, so we had about 28 or maybe... It was definitely over 30 days, actually. We did drums in the first 3 days. Well, I mean, we did pre-production stuff, but basically Nick was done after the first week. Nick showed up every day, on time, ready to go, every day after that. And he didn't play a fucking note for 34 days or something after that. But he was... But he brought a Switch, too, by the way. I was joking about that, but he really did. He brought a Switch, but he was here in the room... grinding it out with all of us, and every couple of days he does, he go, Steven, try that, higher up on the neck, and Steven would go, okay, and it'd be like, fuck, I'm so glad Nick was here, that worked, that was awesome, you know what I mean, that one little thing he had every couple of days was I'm so glad Nick's here, that's why I tell him to keep showing up, so I tell bands that, because I've seen that work in really incredible ways, where the band should have a synergy together, and there should be something special happening there, where the band is working together. Because I hope that the band leaves the studio being a better band than they came in. And you can only be better when you're together, because that's what the band does on the road. They're together all the time, And sometimes bands get bummed out by that, because yeah, well, the studio's kind of our time to leave each other alone. Do you know what I mean? We're kind of literally sleeping on top of each other for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months out of the year. I'm well, that's not the way we're doing it now. So we're all going to be in this together, guys, guys and gals. But having said that, I'm also taking my lashings, because that also means that I'm dealing with 4 or 5 personalities all the time for the whole record, hopefully,
Yeah. Have you ever had to like break up fights and stuff? Like,
I have. There was one time.
things...
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I mean, verbal fights happen, I would say,